Hello students, now we are going to deal with the third type of animal tissue, that is the muscular tissue. You are very well aware that there is an epithelial tissue, beneath it there is the connective tissue which connects all the tissues, and then we have the muscular tissue. The muscles that are important for our body, they are comprising of the muscular tissue, and that is what we deal with. This muscular tissue, as we have to understand what are the types, what are the functions and what are the location of a particular tissue, that is our component of understanding. So we first of all see that how many types of muscular tissues are present inside an animal body. So we have skeletal muscles, we have smooth muscles, and we have cardiac muscles. These are the three types of muscular tissues which would be present. When I talk about muscular tissue, I would use the term muscles over there, that we are having skeletal or the voluntary muscles. Okay, I am able to write on this board because of the movement that my hand is making, and that is possible only because of the voluntary muscles which are present in my hand, which I can move according to my will, which are attached to the bones, and that brings about the movement. So this is very important tissue in context of locomotion and movement of an animal. And when we say that animal, it is an animal, and what is the basic difference between plant and animal? It is movement. That movement is the characteristic property on which we can say that something is an animal and other is a plant, which was considered earlier as a basis of classification. So we are dealing with that particular tissue which enables the animal to take care of all the movement requirements and the needs, locomotory requirements that animal has to deal with. So we have the skeletal muscles or the voluntary muscles. Then comes the context of smooth muscles. These muscles are involuntary muscles. That means these are muscles, but they are not under your own control. Supposedly, you have to take the example of your stomach. Whenever it pains, the muscles are contracting and relaxing. That is not under your control. So those are the involuntary muscles. And the last one are cardiac muscles, which are different and they are present only in the area of our heart. Cardiac muscles are responsible for the formation of heart muscles. All right. These muscles on the basis of their clear-cut distinction, which enables us to understand that few part of the muscular tissue would be involuntary control. So that would be skeletal muscle. That which is not in control, self-control of the individual, that would be involuntary or the smooth muscles. And the muscles which are present in the heart, those would be cardiac muscles. So this is the first classification that we come across on the basis of the striations which are present. Now, what are striations? Supposedly, you have a simple band which is having stripes over it. It would be known as striated band. If it is not having any striations or the stripes as we call, we know that there are many things which are striped. So if the muscle happens to be striped, it would be striated muscle. If it is not striped, it would be non-striated or unstriated muscles. So the voluntary muscles that we come across, they are striated muscles. The striations are present in terms of the filaments which are present, actin and myosin filament, which is to be dealt with the muscular action. That is not part of our understanding of tissue. When we study tissue, please remember, don't get into that thing that how this muscular tissue, a single muscle unit is working. That has to be dealt in the locomotion and movement of human physiology. Over here, we just deal with what are the distinguishing features of different types of muscular tissues. So in case of voluntary muscles, you have those tissue, that muscle fibers which have stripes present in them. Those which do not have stripes present in them would be termed as smooth muscles. We are going to study that smooth muscles are somewhat fusiform. So this would be somewhat in case of smooth muscles because these are cells, so they will have nuclei inside it. And then we have cardiac muscles which are joined to each other and they also have striations. Okay. So another thing to be remembered is that both skeletal muscles and cardiac muscles, they are going to have striations. Now for understanding what skeletal muscle is exactly made up of, what are its compositions, we start with the term myofibrin. even if this part, this smaller written alphabets are not clear, we are just dealing with the components. So first and the basic one is the myofibril. Okay, this myofibril would contain the filaments which would be responsible for contraction and relaxation of the voluntary muscle, which is under our own control. So voluntary control, I must say. These myofibrils, many myofibrils would be clustered together, and they would have their nuclei, they would have their sarcoplasm. We use the word sarco for muscular tissue. Okay, when we talk about skeletal muscle, do remember wherever there is the word used sarco, that would be for muscle. So if I am saying sarcoplasmic reticulum, because muscle tissue would be formed of the cells known as myofibril, so it would be sarcoplasmic reticulum, which would be equivalent to the endoplasmic reticulum of a cell. If I say sarcoplasm, it would be equivalent to cytoplasm of the cell. Everywhere wherever I am using the word sarco, that would be referring to the skeletal muscles cell. Now we have sarcolemma. Sarcolemma is the covering, okay, it is the covering, it is the plasma membrane of individual myofibril. As in the case of plasmalemma, that was the plasma membrane of a particular cell. Over here we will have sarcolemma. Many muscle fibers, many muscle cells would combine to form a fascicle. Okay, don't get confused in this endomysium. This is not to be remembered. What you have to remember is that there is a myofibril. Myofibril is surrounded by the sarcolemma. Many myofibrils, or the muscle cells which are formed up of myofibrils, they form a fascicle. Alright. This fascicle is surrounded by a connective tissue layer that is known as perimysium. Because it is a bundle sort of arrangement, that is why there is a covering, connective tissue covering, which surrounds each muscle cell. Each muscle cell would have myofibrils inside it. Many muscle cells would combine and form the fascicle. Many fascicles would combine to form the skeletal muscle. This is what you have to understand about the skeletal muscle. I am repeating it again from the beginning. Supposedly you start with your muscle, that is your bicep muscle. They are considering over here the triceps. What is present inside your biceps and triceps is that there, if you extract that particular muscle inside your bicep, you would see that there is a layer of connective tissue which is surrounding many fascicles. Alright, that connective tissue layer is known as epimysium. There are many fascicles present inside the epimysium. Those fascicles, they would have muscle cells inside it. Those muscle cells would have myofibrils inside it, which would be nothing but actin and myosin, which are contractile proteins present inside the skeletal muscles, responsible for bringing about the movement. As you can see in my hand, I can do this all thanks to the various myofibrils which are present inside the muscle cell. And many muscle cells, because we are talking about tissue, a tissue would be formed by a group of cells which would be performing a similar function. So many muscle cells have a characteristic composition in the terms of fascicle. Then those fascicles combine, they form the skeletal muscles. And what are the key features of these skeletal muscles? They are responsible for the movement of the skeleton. Alright, these skeletal muscles, they enable the movement of the bones present inside our body, and they are under the voluntary control of our nervous system. That means that stimulus, taking up the stimulus and responding to something, that moving this hand as you can see over here, this is all under the voluntary control. I can stop it, I can do it. So this is under my control. But if I am having some cramps in my body, that is not under my control. I'll have to be dependent on the nervous system for that control, and my body will have to take over some or other function so that I get over that pain or the muscular spasms that we get. That is under the control of smooth muscles. Alright, the control is of course of nervous system, but the muscles which are present, the type of tissue which is present, that would be smooth muscles. Alright, smooth muscles, they are not striated. You are not going to find the striations present over there. So in case of smooth muscles, as you can see over here, the cells are somewhat fusiform, spindle shape. They are tapering at the ends. As you can see, they are tapered at both the ends. The smooth muscle is having its nucleus, that would be sarcoplasm would be present. Cytoplasm they have written. You have to learn it in terms of cytoplasm only, because we restrict the word sarco for skeletal muscles. Okay, that is because the functional unit of skeletal muscle is sarcoplasm mere, that's why we use the word sarco. Over here you're going to use the word cytoplasm only. There is a spindle shaped cell, many spindle shaped cells are present, and there are no junctions present, not much of the junctions which are present in it, and whatever contraction and relaxation has to take place, that would be in the control of nervous system. So when I say that what are the location of these smooth muscles, they would be present in your gastrointestinal tract. The urinary bladder is not under the voluntary control. The blood vessels, whichever muscles are present, they are not under the voluntary control, so they would be the site where the smooth muscles are present. Alright, now we have the third type of muscles, that is the cardiac muscles. Alright, when we talk about cardiac muscles, you can see over here, you can see some stripes present. That means they are striated muscles. These cardiac muscles, we should be thankful to these cardiac muscles because they keep on working since your birth till the time your life ends. That is when the cardiac muscle stops, heart stop beating. The heart is beating every time. It is these muscles which are in function. Okay, first thing you have to remember that these muscles are characteristic of junctions present in them. Okay, we do talk about junctions in the tissue. The cells, different cells, they are cardiac cells, they would be joined by junctions, and the junctions would be known as desmosomes, so that whenever an impulse of heartbeat starts, it is passed to the entire heart. Now when we study about heart, you come across a term known as impulses being generated from SA node. It passes through the ventricles. You have heard that heartbeat sound, it is like this, and that contraction is brought about by the cardiac muscles itself. They are very simple to learn that where they would be present. The name suggests cardiac. Cardiac word has to do completely whatever is associated with heart. So these muscles are restricted to heart. They are striated. They have junctions present in them. There is similar composition as in the case of skeletal muscles. There is sarcolemma, there are sarcoplasmic reticulum, the same terminology as we had in the case of the skeletal muscles, and there are gap junctions through which the impulse is passed on from one cell to the other cell, and cells of course over here would be myofibrils only. There is lot of supply of mitochondria because they have to continuously undergo contraction and relaxation. That is how the heart beats. So there is presence of lot of mitochondria inside it, nucleated, of course they are nucleated, and they are striated. That is to be remembered. They are present in the heart. Their function is bringing about the contraction and relaxation of the ventricles so that the blood is pumped throughout the body through our heart. So these are the three types of muscular tissues which are present inside our body. Very simple to learn. First ones are voluntary, the skeletal one, pardon me, and the second one is involuntary, the smooth muscles, and the third one is the cardiac muscles which are restricted to that of heart, area of heart. So we have the muscular tissue which along with other tissues is responsible for bringing about the motion, locomotion and the movement in the animals. Thank you.